Delegation is getting work done through others. It means directing the performance of one or more people to accomplish organizational goals. The individual transfers authority to perform a specific activity from their own practice to an individual qualified to perform that task. Our first concept is the 5 rights of delegation, which are right task, right circumstance, right person, right direction, and right supervision.
The patient was complaining of some dry mouth earlier. Can you grab me some water? So this patient said that his mouth is really dry. I think what he needs right now is some really salty French fries because the sodium is going to retain the water, and so I think that'll really help him with his dry mouth. Can you go get some for me? Hey, could you get you know what? Never mind. I'll come back later. Hey, could you get the 29-1 off the bedpan? It'll only take you 2 seconds. Hey, when you see the other nurse, can you ask them to come help me with the Foley?
Yeah.
Hey, could you put a Foley in 29-1 for me, please? Hey, Ari, I need you to help me with a boost. So first, we're gonna grab right here, and then on my count, we're gonna boost. 1, 2, 3, boost. Hey, did you get those vitals for 23 too?
23 is not.
Well, actually, I meant for you to do that for yesterday, but actually it's now today, so I don't know what to do now because it's gonna happen tomorrow, but you're doing a great job. Let me know what his blood pressure is.
Okay.
You're doing good. You're doing fine. Yeah. So actually, I would just kind of put it on like this. Like that. Do it really tight. Okay, keep going. Actually, I would hit it like...
Our second concept is common delegation errors. The first is under-delegating, which is wanting to complete the whole job personally. Over-delegating is the insecure in their ability to perform a task, and improper delegating is violating the 5 rights of delegation, which we went over earlier.
Okay. It's okay, I'm just gonna grab your vitals, and then I'm gonna give you your bath, and then I'm gonna, I don't, got on wrong, and then I'm gonna chart some stuff, and, yeah, and then, here we go. I got it, I'm fine.
Are you okay?
I got it. I'm just gonna give you a little wash up here. Okay, blood pressure, okay. I'm gonna lose my mind.
Help me with getting vitals?
Well, I delegated it to you. I
just need
delegated.
some help.
A good nurse delegates. I'm watching. I'm busy.
The videos went over examples of wrong delegation, the 5 rights of delegation. We also went over what delegation is. So how can poor delegation impact the unit? Under delegation is where you want to complete the whole job personally, so there is no trust between co-workers and make the other person feel inadequate. There's no proper communication. So we have more increased workload, no quality in work, and violating the 5 rights of delegation. It can also mean performing outside of your scope in practice. So as a nurse, how can we help our coworkers delegate properly to others? So we need to make sure that all of the nurses know the 5 rights of delegation. We need to do proper teamwork and knowing the scope of practice. Some of the questions for power and powerlessness are: what are the benefits of nurses having more power and how can this affect patient care? Think of a time when you felt powerless on a clinical floor on the job and discuss how this made you feel and how it have impacted your performance at work. Please explain. Sammy's gonna go over these questions in the video.
Hey Kim, I was wondering if maybe we could talk. So I've just been having some concerns about Susie. I feel maybe, she's just had a big change in like her behavior and her mood lately. And I know she's been having a lot going on at home. I sort of noticed her stumbling a little bit the other day. And I just felt like maybe I should address this with you. And you could address the situation, because I know that is a huge safety concern for our patients. And if for any reason she's having any substance abuse issues, I would of course want her to get help and start feeling better so that she can come back and work. So I really appreciate you reaching out to me on this situation. I'll definitely try to look into that. There's just a lot going on the unit right now, and I'm trying to get staffing done, and it might not be something that I can get to right now, but I'll definitely look into that further here on. Hi Nancy, I figured it was time that I reach out to you. I tried to talk with Kim, my manager, because I feel as though one of my employees, Susie, I feel as though she might be potentially using substances. I just have noticed her kind of stumbling lately, just very acting just very different with her mood and behavior, unlike she normally is. And I know she's been having a lot going on. I just felt like I needed to go and reach out further up to put action on this, as this is like a huge concern for our patients and their safety. And of course I just want Susie to get better and our patients to get the proper care. Thank you so much for coming to me. I'm very sorry that that's the way that your manager has handled the situation up to this point, and we will definitely look into the situation and make sure that Susie gets the proper treatment that she needs if there is a substance abuse issue, and we will make sure that she can get herself back on track and be able to come back with a healthy mind and substance free. Thank you. This video showed a scenario of a nurse noticing a possible substance abuse in a fellow colleague, reaching out to her management and steps not being taken properly, so needing to follow the chain of power and stepping higher up to try and get action on this situation. So now I have a question for you guys. What are the benefits of nurses having more power, and how can this affect patient care? So my idea of this is that I feel as though nurses are the people that are witnessing everything going on the floor and experiencing everything going on the floor. They're experiencing staff shortages and more. So having nurses in a higher level of power is probably a benefit, because they can be a huge influence in changes on the floor because they're experiencing it. This can have effects on patient care, because if they have the experience, then they know what would be best to give their patients the best care. So for instance, if they needed to limit their staff to patient ratios, so that they can give their patients the proper care, these patients are going to have a better outcome in the hospital if their nurses have more time to work with them on, getting out and walking and doing these range of motion exercises and doing things to really get them better and keep them healing. Hey Kim, I really wanted to come talk to you because, I just noticed that the patient in 405, I talked to the doctors because they have been really complaining of pain all day, It's the patient that we have with sickle cell, and they're in a sickle cell crisis and experiencing so much pain, but the doctors think that they're faking, so they're not willing to prescribe him any better pain medication to manage this pain. And I can just see that he's in tremendous pain, and I didn't know if there was anything that you could do to try and get this kid the medications that he needs to be able to be comfortable while he's experiencing an exacerbation of a very painful disease. No, I don't have time for this, okay? Just listen to the doctors and just follow your orders, okay? This scenario showed a nurse trying to advocate for her patient and being turned down, leaving her feeling powerless. And so now I have a question for you guys. I want you to think of a time that you have felt powerless, and either on the clinical floor or on your job, and discuss how this made you feel and how it may have impacted your performance at work. Please explain. I will go ahead and start. So I had experience on clinical where I needed to advocate for my patient because they were aspirating and having some trouble eating. And I talked to the nurse and she shut me down. She did not have time for it. She left the room. She said they're fine, feed them slower. But I knew when they were aspirating on thin liquids and all of their food that they needed to be evaluated by speech. This made me feel honestly really sad. It made me feel sad that she looked at me as just a student and that I didn't know what I was talking about. And I genuinely felt as though that's how she felt. Now, I feel as though when I'm a nurse, I'm going to want to be a huge advocate for my patients because it really is so important. As nurses, we are a huge advocate for our patients because we're seeing them all the time. We're with them for days on end, so we're seeing their progress and also their, not progress, like them backtracking, doing worse, things happening. And I don't feel as though this deters my performance, but it makes it hard for me to want to reach out to my nurse, or makes it me feel like I might struggle to advocate for my patients one day if people aren't going to listen.
Callahan is going to go over communication and what communication is, nonverbal communication and verbal communication. So our question is, if communication is so vital to being a good leader or manager, why isn't there enough communication in the workplace? So miscommunication is typically a lack of communicating ideas or goals. Lack of productivity is often the result of employees not knowing what their boss wants. Managers and employees are not on the same level. Leadership styles and personality can affect how much managers communicate.
Communication is the exchange of thoughts, messages, or information by speech, signals, writing, or behavior. Every interaction with others communicates some message. Breaking communication down, there's two big parts: nonverbal and verbal communication. If communication is so vital to being a good leader or manager, why isn't there enough communication in the workplace? Miscommunication is typically the lack of communicating ideas or goals. Lack of productivity is often the result of employees not knowing what their boss wants. Manager and employees are not on the same level. Leadership styles and personality can affect how much managers communicate. There are four types of verbal communication: assertive, passive, aggressive, and passive aggressive. Assertive communication is direct, honest, and appropriate. It does not infringe on other people's rights. The perspective of the speaker is expressed clearly and firmly by using I statements, along with direct eye contact and a calm voice. Passive communication occurs when a person suffers in silence. He or she may feel strongly about a topic of discussion but avoids conflict, harboring thoughts and feelings which can lead to an inevitable explosion. Aggressive communication is direct, threatening, condescending, and infringes on others' rights. Passive aggression is an aggressive message presented in a passive way. Typically, limited verbal exchange with a withdrawal in an effort to manipulate the situation. This communication involves sarcasm in a severe conversation, sincere conversation, or talking about someone behind their back. Over the course of time, this behavior undercuts those around you and breaks trust. Nonverbal communication has 9 parts: silence, space, environment, appearance, eye contact, posture, gestures, facial expression, and vocal expression. Silence is used to show the other party that you're listening. It can also infer your thoughts are complete and not scrambled. Space refers to a personal bubble. Everyone has a little different definition of personal space. The degree of space we require depends on who we're talking to as well as what the situation is. Different cultures have different norms on space requirements. Environment, the area we communicate in, varies depending on topic and culture. Discussions that take place in public are generally more relaxed compared to those in a boss's office. Appearance is a huge factor in nonverbal communication. Dress for success. Don't show up to an interview in ragged jeans, flip-flops, and an old painting shirt. Take time to dress nice. Taking pride in self is a way to communicate professionalism and confidence. Eye contact is a vital part of American culture. Be aware, however, in some cultures, eye contact is offensive. In the last 10 years, eye contact during conversations has dramatically decreased because of mobile smart devices like cell phones. Eye contact can relay interest in a subject matter or person. Looking away during conversations makes it hard to connect. Posture can indicate attentiveness to a situation. Sitting up straight compared to slouched shows interest and focus. Gestures are used to add emphasis to a topic or discussion. Make sure to keep gestures appropriate. Avoid intruding on someone's personal space during a conversation. Sometimes a smile can say way more than words. Facial expressions are vital to nonverbal communication. Make sure your facial expressions agree with your verbal communication. Tone of voice is another form of nonverbal communication. Tone, volume, and inflection add or subtract to the message being transmitted. Make sure these agree with your verbal communication. When speaking in tentative tones, listeners pick up on it, wondering if the speaker is unsure of himself or herself.
Hi guys, I will be covering the topic of increasing professional power. This topic is outlined in our textbook on page 338, and then I am also going to be giving you 2 different examples. The first example will be a positive and the second will be a negative. So in other words, it's just showing how this topic can either be really good or really bad in the aspect of nursing and the environment surrounding healthcare. So I hope you enjoy. And then at the end, I will be going over some of the critical thinking questions and giving answers to those as well. Hi, I've noticed that our turning policy and the turning protocols that we've been following are not really working for us nurses. And I don't think it's being very beneficial to our patients. Do you have any ideas on what we can do to change this? First off, I'd like to say thank you for coming to me and talking to me about this. It's always good to hear from our staff nurses and the nurses working on the floor. And it goes to show that you have the patient's best interest as your number one priority. So thank you. My next suggestion is, would you be willing to help us figure out what will be best for not only our patients, but also our nurses? I would love to help you guys. However, I don't know where to start. Where do I find my research? Do you have any suggestions? Thank you for committing your time and resources to this. It goes to show that you are going to be great as a nursing leader now and especially in the future. I would recommend talking to your peers, so your other nurses. I'd also talk to techs, see what they think needs to be changed, if they think they have any beneficial information that could possibly help us with this. And then the next step is I would start looking even online for scholarly articles, looking to see what other hospitals do, to really see what will be best for the patient, but also help us with our cares. I know this seems kind of overwhelming, especially if this is your first kind of project working on this, but I'm going to be with you every step of the way. And if you have any questions, please let me know. If you're kind of stuck on an idea, kind of hit a roadblock, please let me know. I'm here to help you. Thank you for your time and your information. I will definitely be reaching out and keeping in close contact with you. So after watching that first video, which is the positive scenario, I think it really outlines what a nursing manager should be. And this is really outlined in our textbook, but it's something that I know I personally am looking for in a nursing manager, and I think you guys can agree. But in the video, she's very encouraging, she's supportive, she equips that staff nurse. She kind of pushes the staff nurse out of her comfort zone, but she only does that because she knows that she can succeed, and she wants that staff RN to become a better leader, and especially a better leader for the future. So I think she does a really good job at that. And then she also follows up with saying that she's always available if that staff nurse needs any help, any questions, that she's always there. So I think that's a really good example and stuff that we should be looking out for in nursing managers. Hi guys, I'm Maddie. I'm one of the nursing managers here at our hospital, and my unit had really been struggling with our turn policy, so for our patients that qualify for the Q2 turns. And I feel like this is a problem that I've heard has been pretty widespread across our hospital. In different units. So I thought this has been really successful for us, and we implemented it just a few weeks ago, and it's been very successful so far. So I thought I would share it with you guys. So the main thing is we created a new chart that's put in our patients' rooms. And it's really helpful because it shows where the last turn was and the time that patient was turned there, and it gives our nurses and our techs a good baseline of where a patient then needs to turn that next hour, and there's no confusion. And when the nurse or the tech signs off on it, it's showing that it's being completed. So it's been very successful. Like I said, our patients seem to have been improving as far as pressure ulcers, skin breakdown. We've seen a positive increase from that, or I should say a positive decrease in those skin issues. So I really think it's helpful, and I think it would be great if we talk about this hospital-wide. Hi, I don't mean to be rude, but how long have you been a nursing manager? I know you're pretty new here, so I just have a couple questions for you. How long have you been implementing this policy? Because if it's only been a few weeks, how do you know the long-term effects of it? I just don't feel like this has been successful in the past. I've had a pretty long career as a nursing manager, and this stuff, it takes a while to figure out. So I'm not saying that it's a terrible idea. I just don't think that it's gonna be just as successful as me right now. So after watching that second video, that is the negative example, which I hope you guys can point out. But I just wanted to point out a couple key pieces. So you can see that the experienced nursing manager has kind of a queen bee mentality, and this is outlined in our textbook, so I encourage you to look at that. But you can see that she's been successful in the past, but she almost doesn't want anybody else to be successful. So she's kind of not necessarily degrading, but she's really questioning that new nurse, questioning the new nurse's proposals, and really kind of almost putting her off to the distance and not succeeding and not leading her up for success. So that's really important to note. So there are two critical thinking questions that I have come up with that kind of correlate with this topic and the topic that is outlined in our textbook of increasing professional power. So I'm just going to go over those. So the first question, which I will have up on the screen, I know you guys can't see it through this video, but I'll put it up for you. It is, what efforts can you do to become more informed about healthcare policy efforts? Do you think it is important to be informed about this information, and why? So this is a topic that is taken right out of the textbook. So page 338, and there are several different ways to become informed. One of the things that I wanted you guys to note from the first, which was the positive scenario, is the nursing manager encouraged the staff nurse to do some research. So online scholarly articles, even other hospitals. But the main thing that is coming from the textbook is also becoming aware of government policies. So the textbook suggests to create a good relationship with those legislators. So that's one way. It's also good to just do your own independent research, become more informed. And to answer the why component of this question, so it's really more opinion based, but it's important to know all this because all these policies that are being made are affecting you directly. So it's important to know what is happening and know what to stand up for, what to question, and so on and so forth. So the next question, which I will also put up on the screen, is explain different ways in which nursing managers or leaders can be supportive and encouraging to other nurses. So this is more of an opinion-based question, but really look at that first video and see how supportive that nursing manager was to her staff nurse, and then compare it to the negative. And you'll see like there's just so many different ways that you can. And of course it is dependent on each situation, but it's good to put that into perspective and show how just one encounter and being positive and supportive and encouraging can change a nurse's career and a nurse's future for her career as well.